I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking. And I'll tell myself I'm over you. But I'm the king of wishful thinking. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. The podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal Cinema. And then we talk about it, discuss it. Do we like it? Do we not like it? Should you see it in theaters? Should you skip it? We try to answer all these questions, maybe bring some laughs to a difficult time in the world right now. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm... I'm a velociraptor. Oh, man. Wasn't ready for that. We've had a little time away since our last recording. I am Matt Malloy, and yes, welcome to another episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. Todd told you all about what we do, and I'm going to tell you that we are here to talk about the king of wishful thinking. Not really, but great intro song, Todd.
Thanks.
Instead, we're going to be talking about King Richard, the story of Venus and Serena Williams' dad, Richard Williams. So this is at least not autobiographical. I don't know.
Semi-biographical?
Historical fiction. Historical biography.
Something.
Fictional I don't know.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So, who's in it? Well, the main character is Will Smith, plays Richard Williams. And, as far as other people in it, I think Jon Bernthal is in it. Anybody else?
There's only one other guy that I recognized in this movie, and it's going to be a rabbit hole, so follow me.
Here we go.
So, in the movie, the first coach that the girls get, he was the best friend / bad guy from Ghost with Patrick Swayze. That's where I recognize him from. So, that's it, though.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Oh, he's not famous.
Yeah, I just thought people might like to follow me down the rabbit hole for that one of where I recognize people. That's probably what I'm going to start doing from now. Every movie we watch, I'm going to be like,
follow me down the rabbit hole.
I remember this person from this obscure movie.
Yes. Well, yeah, so there's no one else really in it who's famous. And what is this movie about? It's pretty straightforward. It's about Serena and Venus Williams and the Williams family and their dad, Richard, who kind of forged their tennis careers, and they became the greatest tennis players of all time.
Yeah.
And that's really the story.
Yeah.
Is that. You could get into a lot of details, but that's the heart of it. So
absolutely.
So Todd, what did you think of King Richard?
Well, I feel like it's only appropriate to start by saying we watched this movie like 3 weeks ago, I think, and we're finally recording. Was it 3 weeks ago?
You had to reveal that. We
gotta be honest, I think.
Okay.
They're gonna know something's up by the fact that we're releasing this like 2 months after it came out.
Well,
no
one's tracking us that closely, Todd.
Yeah. So this movie, there's great things about this movie that I want to start by saying. I think acting wise, I think this movie is really well done. Every kind of person who's not famous, especially the basically Serena and Venus, the people who play little girls who play those play the people, are really good. I thought, like, really, really good. Especially the girl who plays Venus, because I don't know, I've kind of like a mid shift into the movie is that the movie starts about the sisters and it kind of shifts to be more about Venus and her rise to stardom. As she was like 2 years older than Serena. So like her stardom started before. So the movie kind of transitions to be more about her and her rise. I thought they all did. I mean, really everyone in this movie I think did a good job. Even old Jon Bernthal. I thought did a good job with a weird accent, and like he didn't do his famous thing of like rubbing his head all the time, which is like something that drives me nuts in movies and stuff that he's in, is that he rubs his head all the time. It's like an acting tick for him. When he doesn't know what to do, he starts rubbing his head. But yeah, I think they did great. The story's incredibly engaging. I thought, not knowing too much about the family and stuff like that, and especially the fact that the dad kind of set up this plan before they were born and all this kind of stuff, has this plan for them and that kind of stuff. It's all pretty fascinating. So those are like the good parts. I thought the story's engaging. I know it's kind of long, and at no point was I like, what are we doing here? Let's get to the end here. As far as like cinematography and stuff like that, that's all fine. Like, this isn't like Dances with Wolves or anything like that with big, huge screenshots or whatever. It's all pretty straightforward. So that's the good stuff. I had a hard time while I was watching it, and this is like my own personal thing that I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, is that the movie's good and the story's engaging, besides wondering how much of it is like actually true and how much of it is like, Hollywooded up. I also found myself being kind of uncomfortable at times of just being like, these two girls didn't have a chance to do anything else with their lives besides what was already predetermined to them by their father. And that kind of honestly sat not so great with me. Like, in the sense of like, and the movie kind of starts by showing the whole family, and then obviously the rest of the family kind of falls away to this story that they're really going after. And, I was fascinated by the family. And then, as it focuses more just on Serena and Venus, and then just basically Venus, I kind of felt like the family was just kind of discarded. We didn't get any follow-up. It wasn't like they did, okay, here's what the other sisters are doing. And there was plenty of things in this movie that I think were just kind of swept under the rug. Like the fact that Richard had a family before this family and had like 4 or 5 kids in that family, and pretty much did the old I'm going out for a pack of cigarettes and just like left and never came home. Like, and then it's like slightly referenced in the movie. I don't know. I think it seems like the point of this movie was to be like, look how great kind of Richard was, and kind of like not great, but look how focused and look how driven he was to make this happen. Which I'm like, yeah, that's interesting, and his grit and all that kind of stuff, and ideas and never give up attitude is, I guess inspirational. But at times it just felt really weird, like that. Like I said, the girls didn't really have a choice in any of these matters. He decided basically everything for them. When they played, when they didn't play, how important was school, how not important was school. Like, it honestly just felt weird. And like, we can look at it now and look back and say, well, it's all worth it because look at what happened. It all turned out okay. But I feel like there's an equal, if not greater chance that it could have just turned out poor and he could have just ruined his kids' lives. So that's just weird to me. Like, I'm not saying it's like super bad or it's good. It's just there, and it's something I've definitely been wrestling with since first seeing the movie, is this idea. And yeah, so I mean, those are all kind of takeaways for me, but honestly, what we do here of giving our gut reaction, I didn't have any of those thoughts when I walked out of the movie. Like, it just was, I was engaged. I thought it was good. It wasn't the best movie I've ever seen, but I thought it was pretty good. So, I think in the fairness of our podcast, that's where I'm going to have to base my rating in, is what I felt initially when I first watched the movie. But, I might as well talk about those other things since they were there. But my rating will reflect how exactly I felt when I left the theater when we watched it. So that's where I'm at. Matt?
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. I think that the acting was good. The 2 girls that they got to play, Serena and Venus, really fun, cute girls who do a good job, and you're just like, you just want them to succeed when you watch it. So good acting, good character writing, and in fact, all the girls in the family, it's a family of all girls. I think do a pretty good job of what their roles are supposed to be there. I agree. I think it was a good movie. I think it was enjoyable. It was engaging, and I did have the feeling. I mean, the story is really about like a kind of. The dad is engineering everything, and often throughout the movie, the dad places a bet on the lives of his kids or something. Not an actual bet, but like he's betting that by bypassing a certain immediate gratification type thing, that there will be something better down the road. And essentially all of those bets pay off throughout the movie. And I would say that is probably the most unrealistic part. Like, maybe that's really how it happened, but if so, that really seems like more lucky than like following some master plan.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously his daughters are supremely talented, and much of that, I'm sure, comes from the practice and dedication to working, but some of that is just genetics too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting part of it, and I think when you kind of think about the movie and how it unfolds, that part is what makes me feel uneasy. I didn't have the backstory on Richard Williams. I mean, I sort of remembered some of that from when it was happening in the world, but that was the part that made me feel uneasy. It was like how often he just like kind of rolled the dice with the professional lives of his daughters, and just said, no, this is what we're going to do. And it worked out every time, but it was a little uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, there's definitely a scene in the movie that made me go, ooh, where it's like he's telling someone, he's like, before the girls were born, I saw this tennis player make $40,000 for an afternoon's worth of work or whatever. And he was like, I went home and I wrote the 72, like he was like, I went home, I told my wife we need to have 2 more kids, and then I wrote the 72-page plan for their lives.
Right.
And I was like, ew, are we celebrating that? Because that seems not great to celebrate.
Right.
Especially in this day and age. Like, you know, I think that's what one of the biggest surprises of this movie is that it didn't have a little bit more of a backlash of like, you know, this day and age and, you know, equality and wanting all kids to have as many chances as they can, and, you know, the negative thoughts, rightfully so, to totally overbearing parents. Here's a parent who might be one of the most overbearing parents I've ever seen.
Right.
And, you know, the movie's celebrated, which as a movie, it should be celebrated, but it just made me feel weird.
Well, his overbearingness paid off, so, you know,
I guess.
what can you say, right? Yeah. So, overall, I enjoyed the movie. It wasn't the greatest, but it was, I think, pretty enjoyable. And, I'd say watch it in theaters, but it's not in theaters anymore, so, you know, just
That's
watch
true.
it.
Well, you can watch it on HBO Max for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
So, well, how many? I feel like there's so many easy things to go for, but I want to skew away from those and go for something obscure.
Okay.
How many well-timed farts would you give this movie from a certain scene in the movie where there's a good well-timed fart?
So
5 being the best because, I don't know, you're farting the most and maybe that helps your stomach, but also it's many laughs for everyone. And obviously 0 being the worst because then you're all pent up and you're not getting any gas out and that probably hurts your tummy.
Well, thank you for that, Todd. And I'm gonna go with 3.4 well-timed farts out of 5 for this one. I thought it was, from an acting perspective, very good. From a story perspective, also very good. I thought there was a little bit, I don't know. It was a good story, and it was the story that they had to tell, but at the same time, it was very linear.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of extracurricular information there. So that's why it's not a higher rating, but still a good story.
Sure. I'm definitely not too far off. I think I'm at like a 3.2 well-timed farts for this movie. Yeah, I mean, when I walked out of it, I was like, solid movie, solid acting, engaging story. I did walk out, and I did have this thought when I first saw it, was like, I was kind of like, wow, the rest of the family really fell away in the story. But then also, I remember walking out and thinking to myself, there's like another scene that was like not uncomfortable, but I was like, man, they really just threw this in there to make you remember that Serena's part of this movie. There's like a scene kind of near the end, and it's not a spoiler, where like the movie is in full force all about Venus at this point, like, and everyone is just either a side character or has fallen away, and there's this like kind of this thrown in scene where Serena's out looking at a tennis court, and Richard comes out and he's just like, it's Venus's time, but you're going to be the best player who've ever played and stuff like that. And I was like, I 100% don't think that scene ever happened in real life. And it felt so misplaced. Like, it just was like, hey, remember Serena's here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 3.5 or 3.2. Yeah, I was engaged. The movie's, I think there's no reason to not see it, I think. Especially since if you have HBO Max and you haven't seen it, you might as well just watch it. Like, it's there. It's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So, it's certainly not a movie that, not that this is an option at this point. It's not a movie that I would be like, you have to see this in theaters. Like, there's not that aspect to it. But still a must-see movie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd endorse it.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Jonathan Ducharme, longtime listener, who's made some comments recently on our Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the only people to have ever done that.
Oh, yeah, I think the list is probably like 3 people, I think.
Yeah. So.
But we like it. It's growing. It's going in the right direction.
So, shout out to you, Jonathan. And keep on listening. Keep on commenting. And that is going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we watched the movie King Richard 3 weeks ago. And we gave it an average rating of 3.3 well-timed farts out of 5, which is a pretty decent rating, even on the well-timed farting scale.
Absolutely.
And so thanks for listening to our podcast. We'll keep making them. You keep downloading them. And we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da.